Hey, y'all know how I do. No time to waste. Let's get it. Let's go.
Illegal immigration, which has been around for a long time as an invasion, which is fine for you if you want to do that. But why is that unusual that there's a process to go through to deport people? I mean, that's actually just how the system works.
Do you know how long it takes for this process, this paperwork to get people out? The guy that we've all been weeping and gnashing teeth over, the guy we sent to El Salvador, was in the country 14 years illegally.
But what about what
We've got
Dante,
millions of people who have gamed this system.
But what about what Dante?
Either you believe in the Constitution or you don't. And
I believe in the sovereignty of the United States, or you don't.
But so you don't believe in the Constitution?
I believe in the sovereignty of the United States, and I believe
I don't know, but I'm asking the question. Hold on, shit, my fault. I don't know, but I'm asking the question, right? Are immigrants that come in here illegally protected by the Constitution? I'm curious to know that. Anybody in the comments know that? Don't get mad at me. Don't throw anything. I'm asking the question. Are illegal immigrants that come into the U.S. protected by the Constitution? If so, do you have the right to violate constitutional law in order to deport people? I definitely think if they break the law, then you should be able to have that ability. But if they're not technically, them crossing the border illegally is breaking the law, but this is a really touchy subject. But because we have the birthright law in the Constitution, where if you're born in the U.S., then you're considered a U.S. citizen, this conversation gets way more complicated when it comes to people coming over. So I don't know, but answer that question for me in the comments. I may research it after this, but you get the. I already asked the question.
Trump should abide by the Constitution.
This is a serious question.
Of course I do. And of course I believe.
Do you believe that he does?
And I believe that he will follow, just as he said, what the Supreme Court says. But the policy debate is worth having.
From the very beginning,
millions upon millions of people are here, and they will not leave, and he has to get
always
I agree with you
in
Hold on a second.
Always. From the very beginning, from 2016, he has believed in executive overreach. We've all seen that. He said it. It was clear. Are you saying now that you don't believe that he believes in executive overreach?
I believe that he believes his mandate from the American people is to solve illegal immigration. And I would ask you the same question in reverse. Did Joe Biden, when he said he would faithfully uphold and execute the laws of this land, not mean it when he decided to let millions upon millions of people into the country? Because he did not execute the law.
I thought that you were going to squirm out of that question.
I'm not squirming.
And yes, you did. And that's why I prepared for it, because I want to read you something. At the core of Trump's candidacy is the call for greater executive authority with willful disregard for the constitutional limits placed on our chief executive. Trump especially promises to force individual companies to do things he wants them to do, or else he promises punishment to those who displease him, which appeals to the miserable man at the airport bar. You recognize that?
Yeah, I wrote it.
Exactly.
And here's
so
the
what
deal.
he hasn't changed. So what has changed about you?
And here's the difference between then and now. This country has been invaded. The president was elected.
So you changed your opinion on the Constitution?
My opinion is the president needs to pull every lever he can to solve the illegal immigration.
So you answered that question by saying you don't mind him being unconstitutional.
That every immigrant here is the same. You can't believe that because they're not. They're not.
I do.
There's some good, there's some bad. There's some criminals that are not.
I believe everybody who's here illegally is here illegally. Not all are violent, but all are here illegally.
How do you differentiate if nobody gets a hearing, if you don't have due process? How do you distinguish one from the other? Well, so what you're saying is every person that's here in this country is a criminal, is a gang member, should be thrown in jail.
Every person who's here illegally is in fact a criminal. Some of them do come here and commit violent crimes and still are deported.
If you don't have a process?
Well, some have records and some don't.
I'm here to break the news.
They're all going away.
I want to make sure.
How though? I'm confused. Every person who comes here illegally is illegal. This is a weird conversation though. But at the same time though, like how? I watched a video yesterday. I don't know if you guys watched it, but there was a video where a guy came into the country and he said the moment he told them that he wanted to immigrate to America, they arrested him. That's complicated.
Sure that we're not straying from the point of this conversation, which is a question about due process rights. And so I'll just ask really quickly, do you believe that undocumented immigrants have to have due process rights, that that's constitutionally what they are entitled to?
I'm unsure of what that means in the context of some of the cases that we've been dealing with in the news lately. because I've been looking at these people who have been here for 14 years, have been through numerous immigration courts.
All right, well,
I have a question about what does that mean?
All right,
yes, I agree, but what does it mean?
Let me bring the Supreme Court into this since you brought them up. This is what 2 different Supreme Court justices have said about this issue in the past.
Undocumented immigrants have the 5 freedoms. Oh, I think so. I think anybody who's present in the United States has protections under the United States Constitution.
The 14th Amendment, it doesn't speak of citizens. Some constitutions grant rights to citizens, but our Constitution says person. And the person is every person who is here, documented or undocumented.
Oh, man.
Gotcha. I wonder why it's so different.
Oh, the 14th Amendment is what they use. That's interesting.
To understand a pretty simple concept. If Trump wants to deport illegal immigrants, he can do that, but he ought to do it legally. Do you think that that is a fair thing to say at this moment?
I do. I do think the media is pulling another, dictator for a day hoax right now, because it's clear when Trump said, I don't know, what he meant was what he finished his sentence saying, which is, I don't know where the Supreme Court is going to come down on whether deporting these illegal migrants is constitutional or not. It's very obvious,
Okay,
yet every single headline...
You just called it a hoax, so let's just play. Can we play it again in the control room? What Trump said in response to this?
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says...
I don't know. It might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials.
So can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So what does it mean for an illegal immigrant to have...
He's so stupid. Look. Okay. I got so much to say. I have nothing against Donald Trump. But come on now, let's be real. Was that not one of the dumbest answers you could have ever given? The dumbest answer you could have ever given. I don't know. You're the president. How don't you know? How don't you know how the amendments work? Like, how don't you know that? Like, bro, crazy.
Process.
Mind
We would
blowing.
all agree that they do not have the same level of due process that we do. For example, we are entitled to a jury trial, and they are entitled to a...
1 second, y'all. I knew it was going to happen like that, man. Dang. Hey, those of you get mad at me doing that, I just pulled a DJ Ghost. Let's keep going.
Hearing before an immigration judge. Do you know who the immigration judges work for? They work for the executive branch.
Yeah.
They work for
what?
Which means
What?
that they work
I think that
for
actually
Donald Trump.
You're actually making a great
of the due process that they get.
But Donald Trump doesn't even want to give him even that due process.
I
think that's part of the problem.
He's not sure the level to which they are entitled.
She didn't ask about what level of due process.
That's a very basic statement.
No, I mean, the reason I'm jumping in here is because she did not ask him, should they have a jury trial? Should they not have a jury trial? She just said, whatever process they are entitled to. If they're immigrants and they're in an immigration proceeding, then yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a different type of proceeding. It's actually more of an administrative proceeding.
It's a much lower standard as well.
Even still, they are trying to circumvent that minimal amount of due process. And the question is,
let me give you
why?
an example. I'll give you an example. In the example of Kilmar Obrego Garcia, I believe he already got his due process.
Yes.
He had a deportation order. So for Trump to be asked, does that man deserve more due process? I think the answer is Absolutely not. I don't want another dime of my taxpayer dollars to go to. He was not supposed to be sent to El Salvador.
Let's
he had a deportation.
Let's put Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the side
No,
for
but
just
I'm just using him as an example
I know that you are.
Someone who
but I also
could
think
very
that,
legitimately say does not need any more due process.
Well, it's not Trump's decision to decide that. I think that's the end of the story. Is that it's not Trump who decides when the due process ends. It's a process for a reason.
Or to unilaterally decide this person is good, this person is bad, because I saw a picture of fake tattoos or whatever it is.
I just wanted to let it go because I was like really curious on where it was going to go, but I don't think. Okay, so many questions, man. 14th, 15th Amendment, right? He's the president. He should be able to answer those questions. He should have had his advisors come talk to him about it. What is the due process? And can he explain it to the nation? That way, people can't argue the points that they're arguing, right? If he was able to explain it to the nation the way people needed to hear it, then people might be more on board with him on doing it, or maybe more against it, just depending on what he knows. But the fact that you don't know the amendments and what constitutes the processes in which immigrants get due process is crazy, you know. But again, when somebody comes into a country and breaks the law, right? If they come into a country and break the law, this is where I'm thinking my mind is going with it. If somebody comes into a country and breaks the law, they have the right for due process, no matter where you are on the planet. Like anywhere you go where you break the law, you have the right for due process in any country. And some countries' processes are maybe a little more violent than others. Some are a little more hostile than others, but we have one of the due processes that's somewhat fair. We allow people to come in, and even if they come in illegally, we give them a process to see what kind of person they are, and then maybe we may vet them into becoming a citizen if they're worth that. I don't know. You guys comment down below what you think. I'm giving my opinion. I think that everybody should be entitled to due process in the country, no matter where you're from. And if you're proven to be a violent criminal, then yeah, maybe you should go. But I think if you're trying to escape a country that has to get a better life, I think dang, I don't know. I'm everywhere with this, because then you should do it the legal way. But I don't know. Anyways, y'all, peace.